Let's do it.
All right, welcome everyone. Let's call the meeting to order. We shall begin with the consent agenda. I believe all we have are the minutes of the May 17th meeting and the Union Public Library minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, as far as I know, that those are the only items I have as well.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, Jay Edwards.
Aye.
Kim Sutherland.
Aye.
Carol Herman.
Yes.
Chris Ryan.
Yes.
Kathy Clarendon, yes. All right, moving right along to the treasurer's report.
Great, thank you. So I will go ahead with the treasurer's report, and I sent all in the meeting packet the director's summary. And so I'll start there and go over income and expense reports. So for May, with our income and expense reports, you'll see that we had a relatively quiet month. That's always a good thing. Expenses include payroll, benefits, building maintenance, and also a telephone bill. The telephone bill is in the communications line. So if you see that notation there, that is what that utility is. Payrolls were just a little bit higher than normal due to training 2 new on-call staff members who are arriving just in the nick of time for vacation time, sick time, and current gaps in our staff schedule that they will help us cover for all of those. On the town reconciliation, our payment to the Providence Journal cleared. We are just so thrilled to be able to have newspapers back in the library, as high touch items are something that we're not too worried about at this point. So newspapers back. I also renewed a Zoom subscription that we need for these meetings. This comes from the town side, and that also cleared in May. We also have a second Zoom subscription that we do on a month-to-month basis, but that comes out of the Bank Newport side, and that's used for our programs. I know that we would love if Zoom did it so we could run 2 meetings at the same time, but it is just not that way. So we do have 2 subscriptions, and that is everything that I have for income and expense reports. I saw Sandy, I want to say last week, and he was also in today to sign some invoices. So nothing to note from him. And any questions on income and expense reports? Okay, so I will move on to Bank Newport. So you are going to see some program supply charges coming through Bank Newport. It is the season, as we say, in the library with summer reading. And so the check also to the town of Tiverton for $272. In case you're wondering, that is for the traffic detail that we had for the electronic recycling event here. We also had a lovely donation from a patron honoring the former Essex Library location, and our patron donated the amount of money needed for us to purchase it's called a hometown puzzle. And so you plug in the address of the place you would sort of like memory of. And so we plugged in the Highland Road address for the old Essex Library, and the centerpiece of the puzzle is a house, and the rest of the puzzle is the map of Tiverton. So I included some pictures in your packet to sort of explain that there, which I thought was a lovely donation for us to have. And probably towards the end of June, we will put that out on a table, and as patrons come through, they can work on it a little bit at a time. Okay.
Nice.
Yes, lovely. It was very, very lovely surprise. Any questions about Bank Newport? Okay. Thank you.
Well, let's move on to committee reports. Budget Committee.
Okay, so just a quick update, if I may, Budget Subcommittee. So I have some building maintenance items that I would like to take care of before the end of this fiscal year, and they will be covered by our current funds for fiscal year 21. We had Madden Electric here several times. They had worked on replacing a bulb and ballast out on one of our outside tamper-proof sconces. So it was definitely an involved project, more so than our custodian could do. We also have another light fixture. It's actually right above the info desk, and we do need a new ballast and bulb on that unit, which they're working on for us. So the invoice from them will be coming soon. We needed to do our regular gutter cleaning. It has sort of passed, peak pollen season. So this is a good time for us to do the gutter cleaning. They will be here Wednesday, I believe, as long as the weather is good. And then this coming weekend, we will be doing window washing. I don't think have ever had this done in this building, and it is very buggy and very dirty on our outside windows. And it is certainly something more involved than, again, our custodian could do. So that will be happening this weekend. Let me just pull up my notes here. There's a couple things in regard to Encore Fire Protection. So they are our sprinkler and fire alarm system servicing company. So there's 2 5-year inspections, 1 3-year inspection. We had an issue also with a dripping pipe that's on the outside of the library on the north side. There's a little bit of a rust stain against the building there. And we also have a sprinkler head on the porch that needs to be realigned. So we do total cost for all of those repairs and inspections of $3,519. So depending on the availability of the funds after taking care of the first items I listed, I'm going to start to chip away at Encore. And we will probably have to split the costs between fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 somehow, and just take care of the more important things first, and then again, chip away at those. So that's what I have for fiscal year 21. Other than that, we are in very, very good shape. And even those items that I listed are pretty regular and normal maintenance things that we have to take care of.
I just have one question on that.
Sure.
I was going through your reports, and I noticed we obviously have a very large surplus in labor in our staffing. Are we able to shift any of that to our building maintenance, or is there something that precludes that I'm unaware of?
Absolutely. So one of the things, and this invoice actually just came in last week, our HVAC control system. So like the computer that controls all of our HVAC units is very, very important. We are actually taking $9,000 from salaries to spend on that control system. Also, I believe last meeting, we took $7,000 from salaries, a different $7,000, and $1,000 from FICA, so $8,000 total to put towards books and e-zone items, which we know our patrons love to read. So that was definitely a welcome shift there, a line item transfer. So other than that, those were the 2 big line item transfers that I had done. And then any sort of remaining funds in any lines, I normally direct right towards building maintenance and chipping away those items. So we've already made a little bit of a move with that control system, and our final 2 weeks of the year now, we'll be focusing on making sure the building is taken care of.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, any other fiscal year 21 questions? Great. Move on to fiscal year 22 budget update, if that's all right. Okay. So I took a look at the town's FTR website last week. It looks like there are 3 budgets currently listed. There are 2 budgets that list us at a town appropriation of 591,000. And there is another budget that lists us at 597,856. So where we will end up for next year is up to the voters of Tiverton. I will say that I did look through both to confirm those, or all 3, just to confirm those numbers. And I have not seen any other dockets go up on the website. So that's where we are. I would love to be able to present a fiscal year 22 budget to you all in July, but I believe we'll have to wait until August to finalize our budget, as it will be voted on after our meeting in July. The FTR is on the 17th and our meeting is on the 19th. So that's very quick turnaround. I don't think I can meet with well, maybe if we could meet with the budget subcommittee Monday, the 19th in the afternoon, but I will leave it up to them. I will put something out there and we'll see if that's possible. But I think August is a better bet for us finalizing the library's fiscal year 22 budget. And that's all I have.
So if you have let's say the budget that only has 6,000, I understand $6,000 short. If that budget passes, where is that differential?
So that's a great question. It would have to be in staffing, and it would also have to be in our collection budget line, which is books, DVDs, e-zone items. That is primarily where I believe we'll have to see that. I would just like to point out right now, our young adult librarian is part-time, and she did not take health insurance from us. She received in lieu of payments because she received health insurance from her husband's job. So when we hire a new young adult services librarian, the chances of that librarian having health insurance and that being a new cost different from last year's budget is going to be very high, that we will have to have that cost in our budget. I don't have the exact figure of individual healthcare plans versus family healthcare plans, but we will have to work that into our budget somehow. I think we're going to have to be very, very creative, and I will definitely work on the budget with the budget subcommittee on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Unfortunately, the collection account line is often where we have to go to make up shortfalls, and it's a line item that directly impacts all of our patrons who have mentioned in our surveys that they would like to see a larger collection, that they often have to get books they want through interlibrary loan and wait for them. So that's sort of typical. If we fall short, the collection line is the one that gets cut.
My question, Carol, were primarily aimed at you could, if the shortfall does occur, the library could reach out for a General Assembly grant. You have 3 senators and 2 reps representing Tiverton right now, but it would have to be for something that's a one-time occurrence. So if you put the shortfall into building maintenance per se, something along that line, as opposed to having something that's a reoccurring expense, you could reach out and request a legislative grant for that differential.
Wouldn't building maintenance, though, be considered an operational expense?
No, well, if you pick an item, you pick something specific. Let's say you have to have
leaky toilets.
Well, no, if you have to have let's say something you had to have your front doors redone for some reason. I mean, that is $6,000. That's where you could request a legislative grant for that particular item, but it would have to be a one-time, non-reoccurring event.
Okay.
I will keep that on my radar. Absolutely. Thank
You all will.
Any other comments about the budget? Shall we move on to the director's report?
Absolutely. Okay. So as always, I will start off with my monthly statistics. We are just so thrilled to see so many folks coming back through our doors. We had a great month for visits, computer users, and also e-zone checkouts. Our summer reading programs actually start today and run through towards the end of August. So we will be doing both in-person and virtual event happenings. And most of our programs can be done either in person or virtual for the specific reading challenges that we have here. I would also like to make a note that e-zone checkout statewide reached 500,000 last month, which is wow. We typically pass 1 million each year, but for it to have passed in June is a very big deal. So we will definitely see over 1 million checkouts statewide. I'm thrilled that our patrons love this resource so much and that we were able to dedicate some extra funds to the e-zone this year, specifically to address the wants of what our Tiverton readers would like to see in the e-zone. We have our meeting rooms back open. It feels so good to say. And so with those being back open, we are able to have outside organizations meeting. Those who are looking for study room can drop in and use any one of the rooms. And that also means library programs are back in person, some of them at least. So that's a great thing. So you will start to see our door count tick up, and it's only up from here is what I've been saying lately.
Good.
Okay. If there are no statistics questions, I'll move on to the COVID operations update. Okay. So as I mentioned, we are generally overall back to pre-pandemic status. It feels great to say that. A few restrictions are still in place with the Children's Library due to children under the age of 12 not being eligible to receive COVID vaccinations at this time. So we are still asking everyone who comes to the Children's Library, vaccinated or not, to wear a mask. And I think that will be something that will be in place until further notice. I don't have on that yet, so we'll see how things go throughout the summer. We also still have our water fountains closed. Those are both of the Children's Library and the water fountains are still in accordance with state recommendations. I know many schools, vaccinated or not, folks still have to wear masks in the schools, so we're following what the schools are doing right now there. Let me just take a look at my notes here. We are still waiting to hear if there will be any OMA changes to how virtual meetings are done. I'm hearing right now that if we were to meet in person, we would have to have a hybrid meeting, and we're just not very equipped for that right now. We have laptops that we could stream folks in on, but I do think hearing wise, it may be a little difficult to do that. It would be a more than complicated technology setup. So if we can still do virtual meetings until we hear more about OMA guidelines, I know there are a couple things going through the legislature right now, then that would be ideal. But I will actually give you an update on that in my next agenda item that I have. Any questions so far?
I'd just like to make a comment. While it is very convenient and easy to get on the computer and have these meetings, I do miss everyone, and it's not nearly as much fun as it used to be.
Agreed.
Well, I did book the community room for us. So if we did want more space once we're ready, We can do community room, trustee room, any location. Okay, I'll move on to the sort of news and happenings items that I have here. So number one would be the Champlain grant. So I'm so thrilled to let you all know that we have been awarded $15,000 from the Champlain Foundation for security camera upgrades. I do not have a timeline yet. I'm still waiting for us to do like the formal acceptance of the funds, and then we will choose a vendor from the quotes we received. So I will give you an update at the next meeting on how this project is going. I anticipate it going fairly quickly once we have the vendor chosen and everything is in place to have them come in and make the changes that they need to make. This will be a very welcome project, especially since we had some vandalism over the weekend. Our no skateboarding, biking, and scooter riding sign was bent and taken off the signpost out in front of the library over the weekend. The irony is not lost on me that it was done by somebody, a group of individuals on bikes and scooters. So we are very grateful for the security cameras that we do have, but this project will give us some helpful insight into the happenings at the library that we currently cannot see, especially if you remember after the unfortunate vandalism incident last summer, which really spurred us to move on this grant. So security cameras will be in progress. The second item that I have is the vaccine clinics. So we actually were able to host
I have lost Catherine. Anyone else?
Yes, frozen for me as well.
She's frozen.
She's frozen, not like Ilsa.
She probably knows it. Hopefully she can hear us. Oh,
Does this mean we need better Wi-Fi at the library?
Sure, we'll go with that.
I can remember it happening during a meeting.
No, I think this is the first time.
She is at the library. Up, she's back.
there you go.
All right.
Everybody hear me.
Yes.
We lost you right as you were beginning to tell us about the vaccine clinic.
Okay, I will come back. I just heard a very strange pop outside too, so something's going on. That's the second one I've actually heard today. So let me actually start recording this meeting now, just in case we have any trouble with streaming as well. So the COVID vaccination clinics, we had one on June 5th. We had 29 individuals who actually attended during the day and 25 who scheduled their second shot here at the library this coming Saturday. The difference in numbers is because some folks who received their second shot on June 5th obviously do not have to come back. And we are doing the same thing where this coming Saturday, if somebody would like to receive their first shot, that is okay. They just need to schedule at a different site. So they can sign up. We'll have details on our website first thing tomorrow, and also on social media, as well as through our e-blast. So that is in motion. I'm very happy we were able to host that. Also, just some information for the general public. There was an insinuation made on social media that the library and library staff were vaccinating individuals. That is not true. This is through Rhode Island Department of Health, and this is way out of our wheelhouse. That is not something we pride ourselves on doing or ever would like to really do here. So I can assure the public that this is through Rhode Island Department of Health, just to clarify.
Okay.
As qualified as librarians are in many areas,
Yes.
we do, we
This
do not claim to
definitely-
be qualified to vaccinate.
Yeah, it definitely does not fall into other duties as assigned. Definitely not. I draw the line. Okay, that's all that I have for the director's update for you all.
Right, moving on to old business.
All right, me again. So this is a very exciting conversation for me. Last month we had talked a bit about the library's fine structure here, and I do have some updates since the last meeting from other libraries. This item is continued from the May 17th meeting. The Library Consortium voted to extend fine forgiveness through June 30th at the last membership meeting in May. So it really hasn't been a big consideration for us right now, just because we are technically fine-free. Fine forgiveness has been something that all libraries have been doing since the pandemic began last year. But I did want to forward you all some materials from the Rhode Island Library Association. And since that document from RILA was published, there are several other libraries that have gone fine-free, or their boards are voting this month on doing so. So in my director's report, I listed some of those libraries: Charlestown, Coventry, East Providence, East Greenwich, and a few more as well. So everyone from big libraries to smaller libraries to medium-sized libraries, city, town. This is really sort of caught fire here in Rhode Island. And at this time, 24 library systems are in total are fine-free. Partially fine-free, meaning they offer it, like say for their kids or teen items, or they are going to vote soon. So that's a pretty good number. 24 out of 43, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it is definitely at halfway or to 2/3 at this point. Historically here at Tiverton, we have not collected that much in fines. And I say that especially since November 2018, when our auto renewal function kicked in. So what I did is I provided you with the reconciliation for each month with how much was collected all told. And then it was divided between billed items and late fees. So if going fine-free means that we wouldn't charge that, day-to-day 10-cent fine for somebody returning something late. But if they never returned it, we would still bill them. If it was a damaged item, we would still bill them. If it's lost, again, still billing on that. And so I will pull that Excel sheet up right now. This was titled Old Business Historic Fines Information. So right around November 2018, I highlighted it in green for you all. You could see that we were collecting, I would say, around $500 to $600 per month in late fees. And then you can see it pretty much drop off right after November 2018. And it's been going down pretty consistently since even before the pandemic began. Even though we have not been collecting late fines, I shouldn't say collecting, I should say accruing late fines. The fines that you've seen for the past year that were collected, those were from past fines that had been on library card accounts. And so somebody came in and said, oh, I have $2 on my account, let me pay that. So that's where the totals recently have been coming from. I'll pause right now if there are any questions. Yes, Carol.
I do have a question. So if we go fine-free, my question is this: a Tiverton patron who has borrowed a book through interlibrary loan from another library who has not gone fine-free, will our patron come in and then be told, oh, I'm sorry, you do have to pay fines because this was not a Tiverton book?
Yes, so that will have to be made very clear in our promotional materials that the fine is essentially attached to the item. So a library who's not fine free, who is still doing fines, if our patrons return an item from that library late, then it will come up as a charge on their account. So it would be for all Tiverton items that we would go fine free.
And how would you let that information be known that this item could accrue a fine?
That is a great question. What we can do is we can actually put a message at the bottom of our checkout receipts. And I would also say for the next 1 to 2 months, it would be something that our staff members would really want to mention to our patrons if they're checking out at the desk. We can also put up signage as well, especially near the self-checkout machines where there may not be an interaction with a staff member directly. But we found that the checkout receipts are a pretty good, sort of like a pretty good way of getting information to individuals. Also, our e-blasts are going to be very helpful. Our e-newsletters that go out will be able to advertise that as well.
Catherine, would it be possible on the self-checkout screens for a notice to go up? Because I, for instance, do not print a receipt when I use the self-checkout. And so unless I had a message saying, the library, that owns this item charges late fees, I wouldn't necessarily know.
Yes, we can definitely do that. Another, we actually have a new checkout system, not the machines themselves, but we have new software. So I'm going to check and see if that's something we could do. I believe it was something we could do with our old software. One of the other things that is helpful as well is putting bookmarks in the hold shelf items that we are able to sort of advertise certain things. You might have seen them with the Friends book sale. They make bookmarks, and so we'll put them in hold shelf items to promote that event. So that's a good way for us to get messaging out, because we don't always interact with patrons. So it will definitely be on us to get the word out and have staff talking to patrons and make sure that we have something in writing, something mentioned via person-to-person interaction.
But again, this would only, the fines would only start to accrue after 2 auto renewals. So it would be after the patron had the item for 9 weeks.
Yes, and if the patron has a hold on the item, then it would have to come back after the 3 weeks. So that is the only tricky thing, is if it's a high demand item and somebody else is waiting for it, then they do have to bring it back.
So the fines would then accrue after 3 weeks because the auto renew couldn't go through. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will also say I have not heard any patrons mention that, they saw that a book was very, very overdue. I think our system right now, things move through very quickly, and we'll be able to get another copy for somebody if somebody doesn't return something. And at the end of the whole cycle, if somebody hasn't returned something, then they will get billed for it. There are also several emails and text messages that go out to patrons to remind them to return their items. Everybody must have some form of notification, whether it be text, email, or phone call. For those who really do not want any of those options, libraries will still send out a letter via snail mail if that is something that they are really averse to, and having a text, email, or phone call. So we'll get the message out. Kim.
How far overdue does an item have to be for the library to send out a bill?
I believe it is around 14 days, but I will double check on that number. It happens fairly quickly, mostly because we want our items back. We want those to keep moving through the system and be available for others.
Okay, a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
You do send bills out.
Yes.
More people who are like, oh, shoot, I forgot. And so they bring the item back?
Yep, yep, all the time. Okay. All right, let me go back to my notes here and I'll just see if there's any other points I would like to hit on for you all. Okay. So this evening, if you do vote to implement us going fine free, I would just recommend that it be done as of July 1st, 2021. As I mentioned, the consortium extended fine forgiveness until June 30th. So we're okay until that point. But July 1st gives Ocean State Library staff some time to make the changes that are needed behind the scenes. It is very, very complicated. It can take a little bit of time. So I would like to be able to give them the time to do so. I would love if it was, a flip of a switch, and I'm sure Ocean State Library staff would as well, but it is more complicated than that. I did also mention if the board is concerned about the decrease in revenue from fines that the library has received, even from the past 2 years or so, something that we may want to look at in the future is our room reservation fee. Right now, it is $50 for the room, for any room, if the event or meeting is not open to the public. So if it is a private meeting, if it is a private gathering, then we do $50 for 3 hours. If it is something with food in the community room, then there's also another $50 cleaning fee that we add on to that. So I would say that if we wanted to look at our room fee structure, I can certainly do that for a future meeting upon request. I know that some libraries, depending on the room that is being asked for, whether it be a larger room, smaller room, they do have sort of like a graded scale of if it's a Tiverton business or non-Tiverton business or non-in-town or organization or group. Nonprofits are also a consideration as well. Right now, if it's a closed meeting, it's just $50 for everyone for the 3 hours.
Well, I'm happy to make a motion that Tiverton Public Libraries go fine free and join the growing trend across the Ocean State.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Carol Herman,
Yes.
Kim Sutherland,
Yes.
Chris Ryan,
Yes.
Jay Edwards,
Yes.
Kathy Clarendon, yes.
Thank you, everybody. This is very exciting.
All right, let's move on to new business.
Sounds good. Okay, so some good news in the grant sector. More
Good news.
well. we are doing very well in this area. So we have the opportunity to receive $10,000 from OLIS as part of an ARPA technology grant, and Union Public Library is eligible to receive $2,500, so $12,500 in total. We do have to apply for these funds like a grant, so it's almost like our application goes to OLIS, they see what we would spend on, and then they approve or deny. We have a very set number of things that this money can be spent on. And that is because it is ARPA funding. So I included the link to the OLIS site, but the areas where I would like us to focus on are offsetting our fiscal year 22 technology replacement line. We have $2,500 in this line in the budget each year. And I think having this opportunity to use these funds to offset that is something that OLIS is hoping libraries will do. I think that is, one of the things that they really impressed upon everyone is that this would be a good opportunity to have that offset there. We would also like to invest in hybrid meeting software. I think this could be very beneficial for our board, depending on how the OMA rulings go, and if any changes are made, if, a board member is absent, but would still like to tune in, can we stream this meeting? It would also give us the opportunity to stream programs. So I think this would be a worthwhile investment. And last but not least, I think replacing our aging patron laptop fleet would be very important on that list, so that we're able to have tech classes and make everything really seamless for our patrons when they come in for that. So again, top 3 priorities would be technology replacement, hybrid meeting equipment, and then depending on how many funds we had left, using that for replacing laptops. The goal in those 3 items is that we are not purchasing all new computers for the entire library. And this is something that we shouldn't be doing. We shouldn't replace all of our computers all at once, because then all of the warranties run out at the same time. So having things on a rotating basis is what we want. And so I think that those 3 items that we're able to spend on are something that is not going to bite us in the future, if you will.
So the goal would not be to say expand the number of laptops we have available for patron use, but rather to just stick with the current number and use the grant funds to replace them?
I would say yes. We currently have, I believe it is 7 laptops. So those are available both for in-library checkout, but also when we do technology classes, we use those laptops for those classes. So one of the considerations is that we typically only have 1 staff member leading a class. So to have, between 5 and 7 patrons is a pretty good number for those classes.
Do we have any e-readers available for patrons to borrow?
We do not.
Is that an area of demand?
That's a good question. I haven't seen many. I haven't heard much.
From other libraries, for instance?
Or iPads, not particularly, mostly because many people read on their smartphones. And so that has been
Itty bitty screen.
I know. Increase size, right?
Another page.
Yeah.
I've read 1,000.
5 words on the page. Keep going. But that is definitely a consideration. I might look more for a different technology access grant for that specifically. My only reason is because the sustainability is always something that I like to think ahead about. So I think as far as laptops go, it's something we already have that we're replacing. Same thing with our patron computer replacements. So really the only new thing in this grant that we would be getting is hybrid meeting technology. So I think that's always something that I'm trying to think ahead about is this something that we could support replacement of in 3 to 5 years?
I like the idea of doing the hybrid technology because I think that increases access to some of our patrons who are not able to physically get to the library. So I think that's great.
I think so too. And also recording. I think recording is very important too. That if our presenters will allow us to record them, and for somebody to be able to view it after, this technology would assist with that as well.
Do you need a vote for that, Catherine?
I think typically in the past, if I'm applying for a grant, there is a vote just to ensure that there's no sort of like hidden costs or pop-up surprises for you all.
Yeah, I remember we voted on that before she did any.
Yes. Okay, but we did not vote on this particular grant before. All right.
No, this is brand new.
All right, then I will make a motion to approve having Catherine apply for OLIS ARPA funds for the purposes she just outlined in technology-related items.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Oh, Jay seconds. I'll third.
All in favor, let's start with Chris Ryan.
Yes.
Jay Edwards,
Aye.
Carol Herman,
Yes.
Kim Sutherland,
Yes.
Kathy Clarendon, yes. I'm not playing favorites here. It's just the order you have turned up on my screen, by the way.
And I go through these a lot. It's always the same way. Where are you on their screen?
All right, and the long-range plan update.
Okay,
Catherine,
great.
do you need a glass of water or
I
something?
did take a sip, so I'm good for this agenda item. Might need one after, but I won't go through all the nitty gritty of this. I figure I'll touch on some of the highlights of each of the section, if that's okay. Each of the sections, if that's okay with you all. Okay, so our long range plan, this is the quarterly report that I give to you all. Our long range plan is still accessible via our website, and this will carry us through 2023. One sort of note is that probably next year, towards the end of 2022, we will start to want to look at redoing our long range plan. So we're a little ways away, but I figured it would be good just to put that on everybody's radar, that this plan will take us through the entirety of 2023. So our next plan will be 2024 to 2029. Okay, so the first area that I like to highlight is related to library access and services. So this ARPA funding is going to give us a great opportunity to offset budget line item and also improve technology access for our patrons. This is always something that I'm looking for us to do and seeing if there are opportunities for this out there. As I mentioned, we're kind of back to normal with the pandemic. So as far as access and services go, we're in a good spot there. Sadly, we did not receive the Rhode Island Foundation grant for outdoor furniture. The Rhode Island Foundation had a very high volume of requests that ended up totaling up to about $1 million. So we did not get that grant. So we're going to have to get a little creative with our furniture for our summer activities. Luckily, we did receive 2 picnic tables as part of the Take It Outside grant initiative. I had to think about that for a minute. But Ocean State Libraries received a pretty significant grant to update the parking lot Wi-Fi, as you remember. Picnic tables were also included in this grant to add some seating outside. So we have had those stained and finished and stained so that they're going to last us a bit longer, and the bees will not make a home in them. So that'll be a good thing. We also are going to have some really fun outside activities this summer. And I think this sort of expands our use of our property and has really given our librarians, they really put their thinking caps on this year. So we're excited about that. As far as communications go, so our librarians, so Deb and Meg, Deb is our adult services librarian and Meg is our children's librarian. They have been visiting the Tiverton Library, or not Tiverton Library, the Tiverton Farmers Market. The past 2 weeks, they were there promoting the summer programs and handing out some library swag. So this has been always a good sort of face-to-face hi, how are you kind of meeting for patrons and non-patrons outside of the library. Meg also attended the Child Safety and Wellness Day at Longflex to promote our summer reading programs. So that was a great partnership that we were able to take our programs and our promotional materials out of the library and really get them into the hands of those who are interested. We also are very grateful to Tiverton Police Department and Tiverton Fire Department as they promoted our vaccine clinics. So really one of the things that we're excited about is town partnerships. We've also partnered with the town of Tiverton for a shred event in July. So I think that we are really grateful to the departments for promoting our events as well, because it helps get the word out a little bit more for those who may not follow our page, but follow other departments' pages. And we are thrilled to have that sort of method of communication. I'll move on to programs. So as I mentioned,
Can I make a comment, Catherine?
yes, go right ahead.
I would just like to say thank you to you for making this happen, because this has not been a priority for the library in the past, this collaboration with the town, and you've done a great job, and I think it's made an enormous difference.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will say it is always fantastic to work with fellow Tiverton department heads. It is always, again, a pleasure. And really, I think that everybody really enjoys making this town and its citizens very, very happy, and, you know, making sure that we get our jobs done always, and we get great promotion for all the wonderful things that are happening. So, okay, so thank you again. Programs, I will say for the summer, today's the day, summer reading program. This is our Summer Olympics that happen every year, for lack of a better term. We have so many different activities coming up, and I would encourage you to just take a look at our website as everything's outlined there. I could probably spend the next 20 minutes going over each of the programs, but I think it's sort of fun if you read about them and take a look at what's going on. We opted this summer not to do our large summer concert program. This was number one due to the advanced planning that we have to do for these. We were really unsure of how this summer would look back in February, March, and April when we would have started to plan these. Sometimes the musicians will also require a deposit that we have to make as well. And I just didn't feel comfortable with planning a really large event for the summer that far out. So if we can do some sort of pop-up event later in the summer or in the fall, that's certainly a possibility. But be prepared to see our big summer concert series return for sure in 2022. And that will give us the time that we need for planning, for funding, and we'll be ready to go for that series then. But in the meantime, we have our in-person and virtual programs happening this summer. The Tiverton Senior Center book group began meeting in person again, which is fantastic. I know they had to take a break for the winter just due to some COVID related guidelines, and also just making sure everybody was safe. And we also, as I mentioned before, are going to split the cost of a shred truck with the town for a 3-hour shred event that will be free to all those who attend. It is a 2-bag maximum, just to put that out there. So we're happy to be partnering with the town hall on that. And
Big in the bag, B.
yes, yeah,
I have a lot.
yeah, two per vehicle, please. So we will see probably a pretty good amount of activity that day. That is also going to be the same day as the Friends of the Library mini craft fair. You've probably seen them doing some mini book sales. It was the mini book and bake sale this past weekend, and it will be the mini craft sale on that Saturday, July 24th. So they are just full steam ahead with their fundraisers, and we are so grateful to all of their fundraising prowess and go-getting attitude and helping us to fund library programs. So that's what I have for programs. All right, so I'll move on to collection. I think we had a great year this year. I put in my notes that if there's one thing I'm certain about, it's that our patrons love reading. This has always been a top request for our patrons, has been to have more books, more DVDs, more e-zone items. So we were really able to achieve that this year. And so that was a very good goal met for this year. I'm really hoping by the time our fiscal year 22 budget is finalized, that we can at least keep that budget line at 35,000. Or even one of our pitches to the budget committee was that we would be able to increase that budget line to 37,000 with funding. So where that line ends up is to be determined, but I think this is one thing that we definitely want to keep going. The foundation is also still on board with doing their buy a book campaign and their donation campaign for that. They did not actually meet last week. I think I mentioned that they were going to. I was incorrect, so I apologize for that. But I will check in with them next month. I'll give you a brief overview of staffing. So our staff positions that were open are still open right now. I'm not going to fill them until we're a little more sure of our fiscal year 22 budget. I think that is the most fiscally responsible way to be. We have some page positions open. Our young adult services librarian is part-time until we hire a full-time young adult librarian, and we still have a part-time 19-hour-a-week position, library assistant position that was never filled when our technology coordinator was promoted. So I will be reaching out to the personnel subcommittee soon with some wage comparisons. As we know that the hiring for the YA position, that was one of the issues with us not being able to find a new librarian. So I'll be reaching out to the personnel subcommittee soon so that I can speak with them and we can talk about that and then eventually bring something to the full board. And I have one more section for you all. It is funding. So fiscal year 22 is still undecided, but I will definitely meet with the budget subcommittee as soon as I have confirmation of what our budget will be for next year. The foundation helped us secure that Champlain grant for security system upgrades, which I am hoping will cut down on some of our maintenance and sort of repairs that were needed due to vandalism. And the Friends, as I noted earlier, are hard at work planning their smaller book sales, doing their smaller craft sales, and all of that funding goes to supporting our programming and Museum Pass program. That's what I have for our long range plan update. Are there any questions for me? I'm happy to answer any.
Do you have an idea when you might advertise or re-advertise the YA librarian position?
I would like to in July. So that would mean I would meet with the personnel subcommittee probably the beginning of July, depending on everybody's availability, and then possibly bring to the full board some wage recommendations for that position at the July meeting on the 19th, I believe it is. And then once that is approved, I would be able to advertise towards the end of July, beginning of August, and hopefully have someone here by September. And that is my prospective timeline.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine, do you want to send out a doodle poll to the personnel committee probably sooner rather than later, given how busy summers get?
Absolutely. I may just have to have a refresher of who is on the personnel subcommittee because I don't think we've met since the new subcommittees were decided, but I can find that.
I believe it's still Chris, Kim, and myself.
Okay, great. I will do that. I will send you a doodle poll as soon as I pull some dates together.
All right. Anything else on the long range plan? Any other comments?
I'm amazed that the long range plan has gone as far as it has in a global pandemic. So thank you, Catherine, for getting all.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all for coming. I look forward someday to seeing your smiling faces in person. And we shall adjourn.